Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to talk about this while I had it in my mind. I was just watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and Ben Shapiro was on, and they were talking about transgender and all that shit. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to say shit, you know. Here's the thing, like I'm listening to them talk, and these are two, very logical people, but um, you know, in a conversation that follows logic for a good amount of time, then it's almost seamless, the transition, and where it no longer becomes logical. And what I mean by that is, so Ben Shapiro takes the stance that biology is biology. You're either born a man, you're either born a woman, and unfortunately, I mean, however you want to look at it, that is fact. There is no disputing that. Where it starts to break down is is how it affects other people. Now, so me myself, I don't have a problem if a man becomes a woman and wants to be known as a woman. The first thing I think is, if this makes their life easier, fine. And then I think about how it affects my life. And how it affects my life. Calling somebody by their preferred pronoun does not automatically create a 200-pound rock on my back where dragging it around becomes an inconvenience. And people get all up in arms about it because, governments have stepped in, like in Canada, and they say, well, now you have to call people by this. Then, people get patriotic. People who are not normally patriotic, they get patriotic, and they're like, well, this is against freedom and stuff. And they, go on a tirade. And they're kind of overlooking the fact that when a government steps in to do something like that, you have to consider who they're talking about. If you're the kind of person that doesn't have a problem calling someone by their preferred pronoun, they're not talking about you. What they're doing is they're trying to get the assholes who are not using their brains, who are not thinking logically, to do something that effectively does not affect their lives negatively. Now it gets a little dicey when like it starts to get to like you're considered a bad parent if you don't indulge your children who are under the age of 18 when they say they feel like and that's happening a lot here in the United States, where there's been a huge number of adolescents under the age of 18 who have said, I feel like I'm a man, I feel like I'm a woman, and the thing is, a parent's responsibility is to come in at that point to educate their children and to let them know that, A, that you're going to be supportive, and B, that at an age where you are maturing, your brain is growing, you are actually in the middle of biological change, that it's best not to jump to any conclusions. It's best to examine, analyze, and arrive at a conclusion. And then at that, the best thing to do when you arrive at a conclusion is to sit on a conclusion for a little bit, let it kind of marinate, and then other ideas can come about. So I don't agree with the government forcing a parent to raise their children in a way where, it could be harmful, but what I do agree with is, people say, I don't think that somebody else's freedom should affect my freedom, which is the stupidest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. So, like, if you're not willing to call someone by their proper pronoun, let's look at it a different way. So someone wants to be called a girl or a boy. Okay, say there's a boy that wants to be called a girl, and you are a believer in science and and biology, and you're taking a stance. Well, first of all, nobody gives a shit that you're taking a stance, okay? Because people like me, I see people taking a stance against calling people their proper pronoun, and I think calling someone by their proper pronoun makes their life easier, and it does absolutely nothing to affect your life negatively, other than the fact that you have to call some, like, this happens all the time. When your son, who is a boy, becomes a man, you can no longer refer to him as, you can, but your son, who is now a man, prefers to be seen as a man, and we accept that. we accept the change. And that exact change is the exact same change that is happening when a transgender person picks a different pronoun, right? It doesn't affect you negatively. It doesn't put a brain tumor in your head. Grow the fuck up. Get off your fucking soapbox and realize that that very simple thing can make somebody else's life easier. Now, when, it's your child who is 12 years old, and I'm just thinking myself, what I would do. I would go to my child and I would say, look, I'm going to support you no matter what you do. And if anybody tries to, disrupt your happiness, I will fucking murder them. But you are still young. You are still naive to the ways of the world. You are still not really aware of what's going on in your body when you say something like that. So I would advise you as my child to do some more research, come to some conclusions, and just sit on it for a while. And if after a year your mind has not changed, if after a year you feel even stronger, then let's have this talk again. And I'm not forcing them to be a boy or be a girl. I'm just telling them, acknowledge that there are things at play that you are not really aware of, and consider that during this time of, biological change in you, this maturing, this growth, things are things are going to get weird. And, to cement yourself in any kind of mindset at such a pivotal moment in your growth would be doing yourself a disservice. And so that's where I would leave it. And then if, by the time my child's old enough and mature enough and they say, I still feel like this, then do whatever the fuck you want. And then whatever you do, I will defend to the death your right to do it. But to those of you out there who take a stance on calling someone their pronoun, go fuck yourself, all right? You're not, like, you say, this person's freedom shouldn't affect me. Well, here's another stance on it. When you get into traffic, people's freedom to drive like assholes affect you. And you may get cut off, and you may even be pissed off about it. But you're not going home and you're not recording videos on YouTube fucking on tirades about people driving shitty. You just accept that people are going to drive shitty. Sometimes it's going to happen. Sometimes you're going to drive shitty. And you get on with your fucking life, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. Get on with your fucking life. Like, if somebody wants to be called a woman, I don't care what their biological starting point is. It doesn't affect me. I don't have to live their lives. And if you're one of those people that, like, I don't have to do it, I have the freedom to say no. You're right, you do have the freedom to say no. But that makes you a fucking colossal asshole when you're considering that what you're saying no to is a word to you. To them, it's so much more. To you, it's a word. Grow the fuck up. If I can make somebody's life easier, even if they only decide that they want to be, a woman or a man for a year and then change their mind, I don't fucking care. I'll call them whatever they want. If it makes their life easier, I'm the kind of person that wants people to be happy. So I'm not going to fucking fuck with their shit. I'm not going to stand on a soapbox and take a stance. Like, and this is what it comes down to. It comes down to people who don't believe in it or believe in it but aren't participating. It's a fucking word. Treat it like it's a fucking word that helps other people along with their day. Because the people that are going through this body dysmorphia, they're having a tough time. And you're taking a stance as an asshole is not making things better. In fact, you are actively participating in something that is affecting other people's lives negatively. So if you don't want somebody to affect your life negatively, then shut the fuck up and call them whatever they want, because it doesn't hurt you. Does that make sense? I hope so, because it seems pretty simple. Now, granted, I'm not a social scientist. I'm not a fucking biologist. I'm not anybody but a fucking guy who believes he's using his brain properly. So take it for what it's worth. And also consider, you can disagree with me in the comments. You can send me a message. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But I do not care about your opposing view, because any view you take opposing this is you just being an asshole in my mind. But as always, I'm always willing to get into a debate with people who are actually willing to talk about this, get into statistics, somebody who wants to actually, evolve their thinking or, offer another perspective. But if you're just being like, I'm not going to do it because of this, well, fuck you. I don't care what you think anyway. You're probably the person that that carries on a conversation with somebody in the drive-through line because you don't have any real friends. All right, so go fuck yourself. Anybody else? I hope this has been helpful, help you to put into perspective. The people are making this a very big thing when it doesn't have to be. It's very big to the people who are experiencing it, and they're already having a tough time. And if they want to be called something else, if you want to be called Napoleon, I don't give a fuck, because it doesn't affect my life negatively. I don't have to live your life. And that's the mature stance on it, guys. So, I'm glad we had this chance to talk. Have a great day, or don't. I don't give a shit.